There is something Brawl Stars players do, both on the high and the low ladder, that at face value looks like something you have to do in order to win, but in reality is actually making you lose. I was genuinely surprised when I realized this, and I think you will be as well. A lot of players make this mistake, both high and low players, but it's mostly prevalent in low ladder games, and by that I mean anything below 800, even though that's technically the mid ladder. A lot of people don't realize that they're making this mistake because, like I said before, they think it to be a necessity, even though it really isn't. But fixing this problem is actually a lot easier than you think. Okay, so what exactly is this mistake? Well, since you're here to learn about it, let's see if you can figure it out yourself. I'm gonna tell you 5 different aspects of this mistake, and by the time we get to this timestamp, let's see if you guys can guess what it is. So the first aspect of this mistake is all about lane switches, and I don't mean realizing your matchup is bad and going to a better lane. No, I'm talking about when a player is shooting in one lane and suddenly shoots towards the other lane. While you may do this with good intentions, like to help out a teammate with their lane, you are making 2 big mistakes here. One is that you're shifting your attention. This means you're no longer aware of whether your own opponent is shooting, pushing up, healing, or whether they're aiming above or below you, whatever. Not having this information with you itself is problematic, but it gets worse when the second problem rears its head. You see, when you're hitting a lane constantly, even if you aren't hitting your opponent per se, you are creating a lot of pressure on your lane. It's the same idea that leads to spawn traps, where the lane pressure forces you into your spawn for the whole match. When you shift your firing to another lane, you're immediately relieving this pressure off your enemy, allowing them to push in towards you, which runs the risk of you getting killed, and I don't think I need to tell you why that's a bad thing. Switching lanes also means completely abandoning your lane. Now, I hope none of you do this, but I've seen many players completely drop their lane and move to a new one. This could happen mid-match, where they just walk across the map, or it could happen at the start, where they begin firing and then ignore the lane completely. Swapping lanes is completely different. Swapping is when you and a teammate exchange lanes to get better matchups. That's an actual strategy. Switching without warning, whether you're switching focus or just moving out of the lane completely, is one of the most dangerous things you can do. So that's the first one, and it's quite easy to recognize and correct. But from here on out, it gets harder to notice. So let's keep going. Next up, trying to be fancy. No, I'm not talking about trick-shotting mortises. Yes, that does count, but literally everyone complains about it, so I'm not going to dwell on that. Yes, trick-shotting is dumb. If you don't have practice, don't do it. Let's talk about everything besides trick-shot that fall under being fancy. It's very difficult to pin this one down, but I'll try my best to simplify the idea. Imagine you have a YouTube channel and you're actively trying to get some cool clips to make a compilation. If you're playing with the goal of impressing everyone in the lobby, then you're asking for trouble. And this is due to a number of reasons. The main issue is that your personal objective of doing a cool trick is being put before the actual objective of winning the game. And while this isn't inherently a bad thing, especially if you have the skill necessary to pull it off, it does mean that actually winning the game is your second priority. Especially in high ladder, focus becomes of the utmost importance. The higher up the ladder you go, the more concentration is required. High ladder games revolves around acquiring small advantages rather than making big plays, which is why being fancy, aka attempting big plays, is a dangerous prospect to consider. Third is something nearly everyone does or has tried to do at some point, and that is attacking more than one enemy at once. Now, while a 2v1 or a 3v1 is definitely entertaining to watch, especially if the one player ends up outplaying all 3 of their opponents, it's not the best position to put yourself in intentionally. This also relates back to the first point of switching lanes. You only want to be fighting one enemy at one time, ideally. A lot of players, low, mid, and high, and even at the esports level, tend to do this, and most of the time it doesn't end well, simply because of the near practical impossibility of competing against 9 ammo bars with just your 3. Now, there are moments where taking 2 or 3 enemies on at the same time is necessary, like when chaining with mortars, or if you're the only person left defending the goal. But intentionally putting yourself in a position where you're outgunned can get easily crossed between them is too risky of a play to make. Okay, so we're down to the last 2, so coming in at number 4, trying to get star player. Ah, yes, we've all been here. No, don't lie to me now. You have done this, and I know it. Trying to get star player is something we either have tried to do or try to do during some point in our Brawl Stars journey. This is a problem for many reasons, but I'll keep it brief. First of all, star player needs quite a bit of kills to get, and while kills are important in a game, they're not the main objective in a majority of the modes. You can still win a game without getting a single kill simply by keeping pressure. Even in bounty, yes, blue star win. Star player also requires more effort from one player than the other 2, which can lead you to committing the previous 3 mistakes that I mentioned, because big plays, 3v1 wins, fancy stuff can all give you the title of star player. Now, Just the fact that it can cause the 3 previous problems aside, it's important to understand that star player is supposed to be a symptom. It is simply a side effect of which player was the most offensive during the game. It is not a rank to grind for, nor is it an award to unlock since it doesn't help your main progression anyway. So it's not really worth trying too hard to get the rank when all it proves is that you are more aggressive during the game. The last one is perhaps the most important one and also the easiest to forget. But before we talk about that, let's ease into it with an example. I'm gonna give you a few things to do and I want you to do all of it in 2 minutes. Ready? Continuously drink water, count seconds, and jog in one place while playing Brawl Stars. Now, obviously, I don't expect you to do all of this continuously for 2 minutes. But that is precisely the problem. When our attention is divided between multiple things, we tend to perform all of them badly. But what if we gave each of those jobs to 4 different people? Now they can all focus on doing their own individual jobs and do it really well. While playing with randoms, you may feel the need to do everything to stop them from screwing you over. But this just ends up splitting your focus. The last aspect of this big mistake players make is trying to do everything. The truth is, you don't need to do everything. You don't need to score every goal, win every lane, get every kill, or hold every gem. Unless you're the gem carrier, of course. But you get the idea. Which is actually the perfect segue into the big question of this video. What exactly is this mistake? Here is the answer. Don't be a hero, which also happens to be the name of the script. How about that? But yeah, the bigger mistake players make at any rank, but mostly low and mid, is that they try to be the hero, to take on many enemies, to try and save their teammates, to show off, to do everything on the field. And this is because you really don't know how good your randoms are going to be, and therefore you feel the need to do everything to stop them from screwing over. The reality is that doing any of this is very likely to get you killed more than anything else, and it can be very tempting to be the hero, but whenever you realize that you're about to make one of the 5 mistakes I mentioned, stop yourself. And you'll notice that your games become a lot less stressful to play. Now, even though I say that you really have no way of telling how good your randoms are, there actually is one way, and it's called a V rating. Watch this video next where I take a deep dive into what a V rating is and why you should start using it.